Hotep Senuhena Senut Itiren Ishakanugu Kemet. I hope you're doing well. We have 5 people online. This live stream was scheduled for 4 p.m. EST, and right now it is 2:30 EST. So I'm starting an hour and a half before the scheduled time. I'm sorry about those who have planned on watching the live stream, but you will still be able to catch the replay. Let me check the sound first of all. It's loud and clear. The title of this video is Elijah Muhammad's own brother John didn't know that Fard was God. Now that is Fard Muhammad, but I'm trying to keep the title of the videos as short as possible. Okay. So I'm going to start by sharing this video from Lance Shabazz. And by listening to that series, he mentioned a name that I've forgotten. And his video was I'm Moving On. Our brother is courageous. He was a member for many decades. And he has released a book about his experience. He no longer believes in the teachings of the NOR for reasons that he has documented over the years. And I have placed my order for his book. So I might either do a review once I finish reading it, or I might just make a video when I receive the book to show that I have supported him. There's also the brother Omar Shabazz, who's been doing work for many years, and I have also uh, supported him by purchasing some of his product, and I'm waiting to receive it. So that being said, the title of the video that I'm going to share is the Lance Shabazz Show 2013 Part 2, and you have the link in the chat.
His home in Hamtramck. I was right there with Master Farad every Monday night, not counting the times that I would see him through the week when we'd be eating together at table. Not counting those days, but being with him, I didn't know he was God.
Those of you who are familiar with Elijah Muhammad, formerly known as Elijah Poole, have surely noticed the resemblance. And he stated that he used to see Fard Muhammad every Monday, not counting the times when he would eat with him. And Elijah Muhammad's own brother said that he didn't know that Fard Muhammad was God. A couple of days ago, I've shared a video where the daughter of Fard Muhammad's first and only secretary, Bronstein, Sharif Muhammad, if I'm not mistaken for the last name, the one who's documented in the website, the NOI Reformer, who joined the movement when she was 17 years old, the daughter of Far Muhammad's first and only secretary, said that people used to call Far Muhammad prophet. And Elijah Muhammad threatened to put out those who wouldn't stop calling him prophet because he was more than that. And of course, we have Elijah Muhammad's own son, who said that Clara Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad's wife, the lady who saw Far Muhammad before Elijah Muhammad knew about Far Muhammad. And Warith Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad's own son, said that his mother told him that Far never said that he was God, that even prophet was too big of a title. So Far Muhammad's first and only secretary, Elijah Muhammad's own son, Elijah Muhammad's own brother. That's quite a lot. Now, for those who might wonder about John Muhammad, there was a website dedicated to him. See that link in the chat? TheSupremeMinister.com. And I think it is ran by Elijah Muhammad's son, or maybe both his son and daughter, Nuri. In the video that I played, where the daughter of Bronstein speaks, the brother is right beside her. I've shared the link to the interview. And as a matter of fact, not only she is the daughter of Elijah Muhammad's first and only secretary, but she's also the daughter of John Muhammad, the one who just spoke. So damn, that's really in the family. It's not coming from strangers. So here you can see Minister John Muhammad, the Supreme Minister, the Honorable Minister John Muhammad, the youngest brother of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was an early pioneer in the nation of Islam. He held various positions in the 1930s, one of the great helpers of the master. I don't know. Okay, it's okay. Of the master Far Muhammad and his blood brother, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He even served jail time to establish the University of Islam. When asked in the 1980s why he added Supreme to his title, he replied, I am the only minister in the nation of Islam still living who was taught by Master Far Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad personally. Therefore, no one else could say what I can. There's another video that I want to share. Here from Lance Shabazz, but a different one. There you have it in the chat. Lance Shabazz Show 2013, Part 3. The previous one that I shared was Part 2. Let's listen up. It won't be long.
So, brothers and sisters, that's all I was raising was some questions for you to look at. There were some questions that I had in my mind that I said maybe we should look at this, brothers and sisters, and see where it's going. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that he had to run for his life for near 7 years, that he had hypocrites on his tail, one of them being his own brother who lived with him, named Khalat Muhammad. And that he ran for 7 years from 1935 until he was arrested in 1942. But when I look at the documents and the roster of the individuals who went to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his son, his brother, Khalat Muhammad, visited him more than most of his other brothers. You know, he visited him just as much as his own wife, brothers and sisters. So you have to look at it. What is it more into it? When I spoke to the attorney who had all of these documents on Master Farad Muhammad that was housed in the home of Minister John Muhammad, the blood brother of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and his wife, Sister Bernstein Muhammad. Quite a few of them asked about Brother Khalat Muhammad. He was very close to Master W.D. Farad.
So you heard a mention that Elijah Muhammad's brother was supposedly against him. And in the book by Carl Evans called The Messenger, The Rise and Fall of Elijah Muhammad, we have some explanation as to why Elijah Muhammad's brother or other members were angry at Elijah Muhammad. And I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to make this larger. Let's put 250. Okay. Now let me share. Oh. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Bear with me. Okay, let me share now. So that is page 117, 117. By August, however, the upward spiral in membership had peaked. Riots in Harlem and Chicago had whetted the Muslims' thirst for the penultimate showdown with Caucasians. Sensing this growing disenchantment, Muhammad announced at a temple meeting on August 16 that he had just received another sign from far that the war of Armageddon had entered a new critical phase. This sign, he said, was the passage of the Social Security Act, which decreed that all adults will be issued a 6-digit identification number from the federal government. This 6-digit number Muhammad contended was the mark of the beast mentioned in the Holy Bible's book of Revelation. Roosevelt gave you a social security number just to hold you, and now he's getting ready to call in these numbers and give you a stamp. Muhammad warned his congregation in lectures and in the Final Call newspaper. He's going to put a stamp on you, the mark of the beast. Muhammad was convinced that the numbers were a clear sign that the nightmares visited upon the biblical Daniel and retold in Revelations were coming to pass. He instructed his followers to dispose of all their worldly possessions. The end of the world is here. He forbade them to read any newspaper other than the Final Call or to listen to the radio. The purpose of the prohibition, he said, was to protect them from the devil's technology in the final days of white civilization. Any Muslim caught listening to the radio suffered draconian consequences, including excommunication and even permanent expulsion from the sect. Because of this harshly enforced prohibition, most Muslims didn't know that the prophecy related to social security numbers to the book of Revelation had not come from far to Muhammad through the powers of divinity. It had come rather from the radio addresses of Joseph Rutherford of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Muhammad always listened carefully to Rutherford's broadcast sermons. In fact, without Fard as his guide, Muhammad became increasingly dependent upon Rutherford's broadcasts and writings for his own interpretations of scriptures and for ways to lure underclass African Americans to his temples. Once the unconverted entered his temples, Muhammad found that he could keep them interested for a few months by relating to them the triumphs of ancient black civilizations, both real and mythical, and by promises of a glorious future once the NOI membership reached a certain figure, which he cited based on the Holy Bible and Fard's instruction as 144,000. An example of this phenomenon occurred in the early months of 1935 when membership began to plunge. The decline was due, of course, to Fard's failure to destroy all white people as he had promised. Without Fard to help him, Muhammad started using fear tactics as a recruitment and retention tool. He claimed that the story of the Holy Bible's book of Ezekiel was in reality a description of what was happening at that very moment. Ezekiel's wheel is already hovering over the United States, he said in what became one of his standard sermons. However, the wheel was visible only to him by virtue of the special vision he had received from far. The Asiatic nation has the Ezekiel wheel ready to destroy this devil in 6 hours' time. They are just waiting to hear the name of the prophet W.D. Far Muhammad. This plane is a wheel shaped plane known as the mother of planes. It is 1/2 mile by a half mile and is the largest mechanical man made object in the sky. It is a small human planet made for the purpose of destroying the present world of the enemies of Allah. The plane was built in Japan, he said, on the island of Nippon. And I'm going to stop there with that part. I'm going to move to page 119. Actually, it is the page. So, in late 1935, the messenger pointed to several more catastrophes as evidence that Armageddon was approaching. Hitler's denunciation of the Versailles Treaty and the construction of concentration camps in Dachau was seen by him as evidence of the end of the international Jewish conspiracy that Fard had preached about. The assassination of Senator Huey Kingfish Long of Louisiana on September 10 was hailed by him as another sign of the decline of the American empire as the I'm sorry, as a presidential aspirant. His book, My First Days in the White House, had just been published, was seen as a symbol of the moral decay in the national government. The third omen was a hurricane in Florida in September that killed 436 people. Most of the fatalities were passengers on the Florida East Coast Railroad train that was mangled by winds of over 125 miles an hour. These tactics worked for a while but were of questionable value in the long run. After a few weeks, new recruits became bored by Muhammad's monologues and his constant cries about the big bad wolf in white skin. Membership in the NWA continued to plummet. By Christmas, it was clear to all but the desperately devout that no plagues were on the horizon and that the year long physical death of the white man that Muhammad described was a rather enjoyable life as far as anyone could tell. The American economy, despite Muhammad's dire forecast, was improving steadily under President Roosevelt's New Deal program. Many African Americans, Muslims included, were able to find gainful employment on Detroit's auto assembly lines and on the programs created by the government under the National Recovery Act, NRA. Muslims were doing so well, in fact, that a sociologist who conducted the first formal study of the NOI reported that there wasn't a single case of unemployment among Muhammad's followers and that most Muslims enjoyed a fairly fortunate lifestyle. One of the axioms of political science is that few people favor a change in the system of government when its economic policies are working to their advantage. The Muslims were no exceptions. The Muslims were no exception. Some members of the NOI who had joined as early as 1931 stopped attending Muhammad's thrice weekly sermons. It was simply too depressing to listen to his "the sky is falling" sermon over and over again, especially soon after the worst years of the Great Depression. When the when the war of Armageddon failed to materialize and the mothership failed to land, there was a growing feeling among the NOI membership that Muhammad was a fraud. How could a real prophet have made such a colossal miscalculation? They wondered. The faithful, who had had few worldly possessions to begin with, now, since obeying Muhammad's injunction to dispose of them, had nothing, nothing at all, no chairs for sitting or tables for eating. Some were homeless, having given up their apartments. If the messenger was wrong, perhaps the messenger was a false prophet. The enemies, hypocrites, united to drive me out, Muhammad recollected. Narrowly escaping several attempts on his life, he bid farewell to his wife and children, as he had done when coming to the Promised Land, and headed for Washington, D.C. So, I'm done with that quotation. It appears clearly that the reason why Nation of Islam members were so angry at Elijah Muhammad, even to the point of allegedly making an attempt on his life, is because he told them, well, sell your properties. It's going to be the end. And they realized that it was not the end. Now, I have to get rid of one troll in the chat, and then I'm going to read Sheffrin's comments. So bear with me one moment. I hope you're doing well, Sheffrin. L2L from Pseudo Killers. For the record, I'm not a fan of that term, Frenchie. I know you don't mean wrong by that. You know, I'd rather you call me Shaka if you don't mind, or Maat forever if you prefer. But Frenchie, I'm not really a fan of that. You know, can you picture me calling you like a Yankee or American dude, or you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of the same way I I receive it, like you know. And he wrote, "What up?" Like the video, and he wrote, they was influenced by the Jehovah's Witnesses. They were influenced by many movements, and they got all that stuff from Taz Russell, the white leader of the Jehovah's Witness. Well, all that stuff I don't know, but they were influenced by a few people. And you had the Japanese guy, who was very anti-American, and as a matter of fact, he actually wanted people to commit murder on Caucasians to show their loyalty. You know, to the point where one guy actually kicked him out of the house that he paid for, but the house wasn't in his name because he was illegal in America. He didn't have any papers. So uh, there's a lot of history. That book by Carl Evans, The Message and the Rise and Fall of Elijah Muhammad, is a very good read. Very good book about the story of the Nation of Islam. Sheffrin wrote "lol," okay, and then he wrote, "I'm talking about the doomsday preaching." Oh well, yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. So there's another thing I want to teach you to hear, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to look for it. It will not take me a long time. There it is. It is actually the link that I have shared, the Lance Shabbat Show 2013 Part 3. But I'm going to play from the beginning because earlier I played it from a certain part. Um, so let me just, now hold on one moment. AFD wrote, Dr. Ali just wrote a whole book, Far Muhammad, very interesting read. You check out. Uh, which Dr. Ali is it? There's so many Alis around. Um, but so far I have this one. Very well documented. Oh, Dr. Ali Muhammad, the Moorish dude who showed a fake PhD. I pass. Unless he comes clean about showing a fake PhD, because that's a serious violation of the intelligence of brothers and sisters. And we have that one written by a PhD, a real PhD, that is, because Dr. Ali Muhammad, I don't know why he calls himself doctor, you know, but John Andrew Morrow uh, earned a PhD, and I think it's the first book on Far Muhammad written by a PhD. Uh, Dr. Fatima Fanusi's book hasn't been released yet. And Bright Eyes is saying, I was about to ask the same question, which one? So, like I said, I'll pass on Dr. Ali Muhammad. If he comes correct, just like the other dude who's as a plagiarizer. If at least people come correct and own up, own up to their um, how can I say it nicely? Own up to their fault. It's not a private, intimate fault. Something that was stated and shared publicly. Now, Bright Eyes is asking, can you show it slowly, please? It is called Finding Far Muhammad. Author is John Andrew Morrow. It has an interview on YouTube, or at least one. I've seen one. So feel free with your comments, because once I'm done sharing and there's no longer there's no comments, there's nobody on the panel, then I will call it a day. I think I'm going to stop waiting for people to come in, because if they're not there in the first place, what's the point? So part 3, there it is. Actually, I have to open.
Farad Muhammad. He didn't see fit to come and visit any of those that he would name. So I look at the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad not as one who's a disbeliever, but as one who's curious.
Told he was born February 26, 1877, and the birth date of this one was different. I'm talking about now Wally Ford and others, but we can move forward from that. So you
on that date, 1877, that's a selected date. That wasn't no actual date of birth.
wow.
The Imam said that he used that date to try to prove to the Elijah Muhammad that you could live longer than 100 years or 200 years, and he used that date to have people thinking that he was that old but looked that young.
But why would he have to be deceptive if he was God in person, or he came? Well,
That was part of the proof. That was part of the proof. people believed that he was born in 1877. People believed that that was his birth date. And the story behind God being born is also something that is found grounded in the mythology of the Nation of Islam. It's
Right.
like the catechisms of the church.
Yes, sir.
You know, and if you can believe the story, then you can find some reality in it. If you can believe the story.
Yes, sir.
If you can believe how a man can be God through a story of how he became that way, then you can understand. You can believe how that Godhood can last over the years with different persons being in that position, especially when they talk about the 23 scientists or the 24 scientists, and one among them being the wisest, and that one will be God, and blah, 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 blah. Long story. But when you're talking to people who are not scientists themselves, and people that are not that are not that have been caught up in the type of oppression that and robbery that we have in terms of being robbed completely of all the information that we have when we were brought here. You know, you can believe a lot of things. You know, like believing in Santa Claus.
Why did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say things? If the lessons are very near correct, that means they're not correct. Brothers and sisters, that means there's some errors in it. You can't say it's right and exact and yet say that they're very near correct. That doesn't make sense, brothers and sisters. So there's something else that we are missing in this. And I'm not condemning Master Farad Muhammad. I'm not condemning the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'm saying that we have to look into it. There is a problem, and he told us, he gave us what we considered a problem book.
This is a wise brother, Lance Shabazz. Just like Paul Guthrie is wise. I don't know why Paul Guthrie removed his Get on the Wheel series, but it's still available. I shared it with you. It's on another channel. I don't even know if Paul Guthrie is still with us. But Paul Guthrie was once a member, if I'm not mistaken. I spoke to him years ago. And since he wrote a book about the teaching of Elijah Muhammad, um, it's safe to presume that he was. But once I get to read his book, which has been ordered, then I see what's up. Now, who was speaking? This individual, Imam Abdul Karim Hassan, Resident Imam and Executive Director of the Masjid Bilal Islamic Center. And I'm going to share that link in the chat. Scrooge Greedy is asking if it's about February 26th. Most likely, yes, indeed. That February 26th rings a bell. I think it's definitely the 1870. Yeah, it is the 1877. So this individual stated 1877. That's a selective date. That it's not an actual date of birth. And he went on saying some people believe that he was born on that day. So here you have the website, once again, that I have shared. You have the link in the chat there. MasjidBilalOnline.com. Learn about Masjid Bilal Islamic Center. discover the rich history and tradition of our community, a part of Los Angeles history for over 60 years. Now, you see that picture here? You can clearly see the FOI uniforms. Now, that picture is a bit too pixelized, or I don't know if that's a proper term, when we make it larger. We can see the hat. We can, that's the typical FOI hat and uniform. And we have, the bow tie wearing people. So those are Nation of Islam members. And what does it say here? I want to make sure that everything shows on the screen. Oh, it's a bit small. If you can use okay, you know what? Use a full screen if you can. Okay, because on the full screen it shows well. But on my program anyway, it's just smaller than usual. Bright Eye says that date is listed on the records. What records, brother? Let us know what records. Because if we should rely on any record that mentions that date, shouldn't we rely on all the other informations about that individual known as Far Muhammad? And if he gave a date of birth upon arrival in the US, does it mean that it was his real date of birth? We are told that he's from Mecca, Arabia, that he is a descendant of the Quraysh tribe, which is a tribe of Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah. But yet his father is called Alfonso. How is an Arabian man, descendant of the Quraysh tribe of Prophet Muhammad, from being from Arabia and being called Alfonso? Imhotep 360 wrote, "Greetings, Shaka. I'm happy that we are in an information age. These brothers were ignorant and caught up with the cult of personality." I wouldn't say they were ignorant unless you use that in an etymological sense of the meaning, which is not negative, but it has a negative connotation nowadays. But this information age is no joke indeed. It's no joke indeed. Just having digital books and being able to do a search within that book, having the internet with the videos live streaming, it's just no joke at all. Imhotep 360 wrote, Malakazio claimed that he got Malakazio claimed that too, and he got many followers. What exactly did he claim similar? But yes, he had many followers. So let me continue. In the meantime, the rich history and tradition of this community spans 60 years. Originally formed in Los Angeles during the 50s, Masjid Bilal Islamic Center evolved from a few committed Muslims meeting in a house following the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad into the city's oldest mainstream Islamic community. The Bilal community were once the believers of Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 27, located at 5606 Broadway Avenue. The community first began to grow under the guidance of its local minister, John Shabazz. His efforts led to the opening, I'm sorry, his efforts led to opening the city's first Muslim school in the early 60s, which began providing private education for its youth. Subsequent ministers such as Herman Rasool and Bashir Muhammad helped further the growth of Muslims throughout the Southern California area. New Muslim communities will soon arise in Compton, Long Beach, Pasadena, Pacoima, Bakersfield, and Riverside, with some as far away as Fresno. In 71, Abdul Karim Hassan was selected to lead the Muslim community. Under his leadership, the community will purchase its current property in May of 1973, which would help shape the dynamics of Islamic growth in the city. The historic building it purchased was a Los Angeles landmark built sometime around 1930. It was previously owned by an African American group called the International Brotherhood of the Protectorate of Irks. After purchasing the property for $180,000, the 40,000 square feet three-story brick building was immediately remodeled to accommodate the community's religious needs. The facility housed a prayer/meeting area, six businesses, and a full-time school. The community's growth will be phenomenal. Its school became the largest private African American school in Los Angeles history, attended by thousands of children, both Muslim and non Muslim. The Bilal community owned and operated businesses throughout the inner city. Hold on, I have a notification on my computer. Um, where was I? Okay, I'm going to read it again because I forgot. So I'm going to read the whole paragraph again. The Bilal community owned and operated businesses throughout the inner city of Los Angeles. Drive-through restaurants, bakeries, markets, grocery stores, and gas stations, including a 30,000 square feet supermarket, dotted the city's landscape. Our fish business was enormous, with thousands of tons of fish being imported from Peru and shipped into the Los Angeles harbor. And here you can see Shabazz Good Food Takeout. During the 70s, Allah blessed Masjid Bilal's propagation efforts, which reached tens of thousands of Americans, including prominent city officials and some of the world's best known celebrities who attended our events. In 1974, Abdul Karim Hassan helped establish the state of California's first Muslim prison ministry program, becoming an official advisor to the director of the California Department of Corrections, and was the first Muslim members of the State Advisory Committee for Institutional Religion, SACIR. In 1975, our spiritual lives began to change under the guidance of Imam W. Dean Muhammad, son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was through the Imam's knowledge of the Quran and the life example of Prophet Muhammad, SWT, that Masjid Bilal Muslims will become the first identifiable large mainstream Islamic community in the city of Los Angeles, which spawned other Islamic centers throughout the area. In 76, Imam Muhammad held a historic press conference at the Los Angeles Sports Arena to announce major changes he was making to the Nation of Islam. The event was covered by press from around the world and set the tone for Bilal's Islamic propagation efforts for years to come. Imam Muhammad will become a frequent visitor to Los Angeles, and together we will reach for unprecedented heights in promoting the religion of Al Islam. In 77, the largest single group of Muslims from America, 300, made the Hajj pilgrimage at the invitation of Rabita al Islamiyah and led by Imam W. D. Muhammad. The delegation was the delegation was received by His Highness King Khalid in his palace at Mina, where he greeted and shook the delegate's hand. During the 80s, our building was demolished due to earthquake damage that will begin our quest to build a new three-phase religious educational and business complex. I don't think I need to read the rest, Okay. So, you know who was speaking. We're talking about people who were there nearly from day one, if it's not those who were there from day one. Our people are so gullible today. You show them some ladies and say, those are the wives. And you look at the time of the events, they were labeled prostitutes on their own newspaper. Now, Imhotep 360 wrote many of these brothers were never exposed to books other than what was superimposed on them. Malakayor claimed to be divine and related to the Prophet Muhammad. He called himself Imam Isa. Yes, indeed. During this period, many black folks were disenfranchised with white, quote unquote, white Christianity. So Islam was a breath of fresh air for them. Dr. Ben said, and he said that on tape. I think I still have the audio, and I might have the actual video footage somewhere. He said, "I used to be a Jew until I knew better." Now, when I was speaking with, I was on a pseudo killer's channel, and I was speaking with Rob Bourne, and at one point he mentioned the final call, and I told him, "You mean Muhammad speaks?" But from the book that I read from Carl Evans, the final call is mentioned twice. So maybe somehow, at some point at the early stage, there was a final call. My understanding, and apparently I was wrong, I made a mistake, is that it was first Muhammad speaks, and then later on, the name was changed to the final call or the final call to Islam. Well, Bright Eye says once again, Muhammad speaks, he's the first. So this is something that can be clarified, with members or people who are very familiar with it. But as I read, we had mention of it. Bright Eye says, and that is where the original information is listed on File Muhammad. Oh well, if we have to rely on the organization's information, then again we have to, if we agree on that date because they said so. Once again, they said that um, File Muhammad's mother was called Baby G, and File Muhammad's father was called Alfonso. Alfonso doesn't sound like a Muslim or Arabic name, particularly someone from Mecca, Arabia, and descendant of the Quraysh tribe. Brother wrote, I have the actual articles from Muhammad Speaks. I have many articles, the original newspapers from Muhammad Speaks. Well, brother, that's lovely. If you don't mind, I'm gonna show you which one I would like you to. Uh, if you do you have that available handy on your computer? Let me know. Bright eyes, if you don't mind. Would you by any chance have Muhammad Speaks newspaper dated September 11, 1964? The brother wrote, so that you know I am a sister, dear brother. Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. I didn't know, sister. And she wrote, yes, I can share with you. Okay, great. So let us know. Do you have Muhammad Speaks dated September 11, 1964? I wrote it for you here. Muhammad Speaks 1964, September 11. Okay, I check now. Thank you, sister. Are you actually a Nation of Islam member, or did you used to be one? Now, it's not, I don't want to say it's impolite, but it's not always well received to ask a lady's age. And I'm not trying to ask any age, but okay, she is a Nation of Islam member. That's great. I hope they're not going to chastise you for communicating with me. Um, but you are probably mature. You're probably mature if you have those uh, original newspapers from Muhammad Speaks. But anyway, no, there is no issue. Okay, okay. Oh, great, great. Well, there's no issue with you. I'm just, some Nation of Islam members there. Um, they're not fans of me, to say the least. Imhotep 360 wrote, when Dr. Ben says he knew better was when he became a Mason. I don't know. I don't know. But Dr. Ben did not push Freemasonry, or at least not publicly. He pushed for Kemet, mainly. Bird's Eye, I'm sorry, Bright Eyes. And actually, I think, was I saying was I saying Bright Eyes all along, or Birth Eyes? Well, Bright Eyes wrote, I follow you often. It is good to study much. Yes, it is good. Are you familiar with Lance Shabazz? That brother is so amazing, so courageous. There's also Omar Shabazz. But anyway, sister, I just wanted you to validate with us, because some people might say, oh no, this is Photoshop. For those who wonder, searching now. Okay, yeah, when you say there's no issue, first I thought you meant there's no issue. Okay, so I'll let you search for it. Um, so I don't know if Carl Evans used Final Call instead of Muhammad Speaks, but it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Now, I want to share something briefly. I wasn't planning on sharing that, but there's a little bit of participation, so that will be said for the record. Oh, there it is. So, I'm sorry. Bear with me. Where is it? There it is. Won't be long. I'm here with you, brothers and sisters. Just preparing some quotes. Oh, it's okay. Just a bit of spaces here. And Brazil. There's quite a fair bit actually. It's a lot of figures. So I will skip through some of it. Oh, that's beautiful. It doesn't stop. I'm gonna be finished soon. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna do. That's gonna do. I will put that one at the beginning. At the beginning, I have quotes for days. Right, guys is asking what is your email. Just to copy and paste it to um, avoid any mistakes. There it is. BOSSSTYLYX@msn.com. Or once again, please copy and paste it. Now, Tim Keller wrote Elijah Muhammad was a false prophet. Well, who's a real prophet? Who can show and prove that he or she communicates with God on a regular basis? Did you find it, Sister Bright Eyes, and you're just planning on sending it to me? That's what it looks like. So on the pseudo killers were wondering about the membership of the Nation of Islam, and I did say that I read somewhere that there was at least 100,000 members. But actually, you can double up. See that? The book Inside the Nation of Islam. Um, it's good for me to show you the name of the author. Hardcover goes for $95 on Amazon. Vilbert L. White Jr. Oh, there's a foreword by Mike Wallace. I think Mike Wallace is the one facing Farrakhan where they're talking about Nigeria. Everybody likes to, so many people like to play that clip. And, like wow, never mind Africans are living, never mind Africans are living a jungle life. Never mind Africans are not civilized. So that's the book cover here. The full title is Inside the Nation of Islam: A Historical and Personal Testimony by a Black Muslim. I think he rose to the rank of minister. This detailed study of the internal workings of the Nation of Islam under the leadership of Louis Farrakhan examines the evolution of the organization since 1977 and its strange ideological menu of black nationalism, political economic development, anti-Semitism, and conservative Republican ideals. Vibert White, I don't know if it's pronounced Vibert, I would say Vibert really. Vibert White maintains that Farrakhan's nation has become a cult that utilizes black nationalistic and religious dogma and its ability to create political and racial controversy to exploit poor and working class black Americans for the leader's economic and political gain. At the heart of Inside the Nation is White's chronicle of his own sojourn during the 80s and the 90s as a registered Muslim, from his days as a foot soldier and Fruit of Islam to the nation's military organization, through his rise to the status of minister and advisor to the leadership. Included are White's dealings with such leaders as Louis Farrakhan, Akbar Muhammad, Khalid Muhammad, and Benjamin Chavis Muhammad, and his involvement in such activities as the Million Man March. As one who traveled for the organization throughout Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and the United States, White was able to observe the leadership and the operation of the group at close hand. He reveals for the first time the detailed structure of ANOA's business and religious operation. He explores and separates the Nation of Islam, the religious arm that is incorporated only in Chicago, from the final core, its business center, operated only by the Farrakhan family. As a professional historian, White was able to separate the passion of the group's rhetoric from its real objectives, which centered on building a personal empire for Louis Farrakhan. Vibert L. White Jr. is professor of African American Studies at the University of Illinois, Springfield. He has lectured extensively on the Nation of Islam and has published articles in the Journal of Caribbean Studies, Psychohistory Review, Journal of Illinois History, UCLA Black Law Journal, Chicago Defender, and Cincinnati Enquirer. 288 pages, and it was published on September 18, 2001. One week after September 11, 2001. So that guy knows his stuff. He rose to the rank of minister. And this is who I will quote. Now, in the meantime, we have James Powell who joined us. How you doing, elder brother? And he wrote at 360 wrote, there are no real prophets. It's all about self-grandizement. Well, for Abrahamic people and other religious people, they are prophets, Others will see differently. Now, like I was saying, this author, who is a historian, a professor of African American Studies at the University of Illinois, gives us a figure when it comes to the membership of the Nation of Islam. And the sentence says, of course, Farrakhan did not achieve the same physical level of Elijah Muhammad's movement, which had a membership of at least 250,000 and a very large business structure. So Elijah Muhammad had a membership of at least 250,000. So when the brother, I think his name was, I don't want to make a mistake, but uh, one of the pseudo killers member gave the figure of they were earning at least $20 million a year. Rabon was disputing that, saying, source up, give us some source. I was on my mobile phone then. It was in the early hours. I happened to wake up early and saw the notification. And I listened and I called and participated. If I was on my computer, it would have been something different. you know. But here we have a source for those figures. In the meantime, Bright Eyes wrote, I finally have it, dear brother. The year is combined. Great. Well, feel free to send it to me. I still haven't received any email yet. And if you have sent the email, then let me know. Um, James Powell wrote, doing good, Shaka. That's great to hear. And Tim Camer wrote, 250,000 members, credit to Malcolm. Well, we don't have any date yet. A lot of people say that Elijah Muhammad founded the Nation of Islam. Some argue it was really Father Muhammad. So some people say Elijah Muhammad founded the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X built the Nation of Islam. But Elijah Muhammad still had membership before Malcolm X. So let's go to some figures. Contrary to Muslim rhetoric, Nation members were recipients of subsidized housing, welfare checks, and food stamps, and participated in women, infant, children programs. These families, devoted followers of the messenger and Louis Farrakhan, often gave 60% of their monthly income to the mosque. I'm just going to read what is highlighted from my notes. Now here, shortly after the apparent show of solidarity, Farrakhan purchased from Muhyiddin Muhammad the Stony Island Mosque and school that Elijah Muhammad had used as a national center for the Nation of Islam, which each believer of the NOI donated $1,000 to purchase the 2.5 million structure. Both leaders lived up to the promise that they would support programs of mutual benefit. Warith Din Muhammad's organization was overwhelmed by debt and he had to streamline and sell obsolete holdings. Finances were also a crucial concern for Farrakhan. Since 1982, he had collected millions of dollars from his followers to raise money for the building of a national center complex, school, bakery, and adult educational facility. However, for unknown reasons, the money was never used for the announced purposes, and that's something. But partly he cannot be held accountable because that goes for everybody on the planet Earth except leaders of the Nation of Islam. They are beyond reproach, they are beyond accountability. They can call women prostitutes on their own newspaper, and 28 years later, bring them on stage and say these were the wives of our leader. So let's continue. The Salam restaurant opened in 95. Members of the Nation of Islam had to give a minimum of $1,000 donation towards the construction of the eatery. In May 2000, the establishment was closed for repairs, according to the Nation. However, according to insiders, the Salam has been operating in a sea of debt and financial mismanagement. The major problem is that the Nation pressures its members to give at least 60% of their incomes to finance the dreams of Farrakhan. The Muslims believe that they are giving charitable gifts to a religious body. Under this doctrine, Muslims, starting in 1981, gave millions of dollars to build a new mosque, restaurant, bakery, bookstore, auditorium, hair salon, classrooms, and a soup kitchen. Underclass individuals who make up 95% of the nation's body earning less than $12,000 annually found themselves giving a minimum of $2,000 per family. That is $1,000 per adult. However, this does not include the other funds for Farrakhan Savior's Days. Other funds for Farrakhan Savior's Day. Gifts oftentimes $1,000 per person. They really like the $1,000 figures in the Nation of Islam. I mean, they don't beat around the bushes. It's not 995. It's like just 1,000 we good. You know what I'm saying? Bright Eyes says that she has sent the article. Thank you. Let me check. My email, there's nothing here. I'm going to refresh, and no, there's nothing here, nothing in the spam folder. So sometimes it takes a little while. There might be a little delay. Uh, but for all purposes, Sister Bright Eyes, I'm just typing my email address again. And if you don't mind verifying that it was indeed sent at that address, um, and then it means that probably I will receive it a bit later on. So it's BOSSSTYLYX@msn.com. I'll receive the email right now, sister. Great. Thank you very much for that. So let me download the PDF. Or actually, I will open it on a tab. I don't need that one. And I will open it in a tab. See, it's a good thing I started this live stream early. Sometimes, things happen for, like some people say, things happen for a reason. So, just one moment. One moment. I'll go there. I'll go there. And here. So why people get thousands of dollars? Yours truly has not received a single donation. How sad. September 11, 1964. So, thank you very much, Sister Bright Eyes, a Nation of Islam member. We had a Nation of Islam member, Asiatic Black Man 19, Afro Asiatic. We shared so much information for months until he acted disingenuous, trying to imply that I was lying about Dr. Wesley Muhammad challenged me to a debate publicly and then backing down after I accepted and after we even spoke about the debate on the phone. And I was disappointed at the brother for doing that because it's a matter of public record. But anyway, I'm glad that we can communicate. So let's have a look at this Muhammad Speaks newspaper. As you can see, September 11, 1964. There are 27 pages from that PDF. It looks like Idi Amin here. But it is not him. It is Congo's President Joseph Kasavubu. U.S. backs Lumumba's murderers. Negro slavery, the greatest crime of mankind. Here we have direct report from the messenger of Allah. Up, you can accomplish as you will. And this is obviously similar to Marcus Garvey, who said, "Up your mighty race. Up your mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." Now, here we have, hold on. I almost made a mistake. It looked like somebody that we're very familiar with. So here, this is what you can find on my website. Did I share the link previously? My article about the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. Bright Eyes wrote, "I do not get into debates." Well, usually, I've been saying for years, I don't argue, I state facts. um, we can definitely get clarity. And when I say we, I mean, people as a whole, people in general, without necessarily debating. People debate when they are opposite in views and they feel like they want to address their disagreement in an orderly manner, orderly or not, for that matter. But anyway, I don't want to, sound like I am philosophizing, if that's the word, politicking. So here you will find the article right there, and it's page 4. And it says size 20-year association with Minister of Allah by Minister Isaiah Kareem. He's a minister from Baltimore. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the spiritual head of the fastest growing Muslim movement in the Western Hemisphere, is truly indeed the messenger of Allah, of whom we, his followers, are very grateful. We pray to Allah, bless Muhammad, thy message, the best of thy creatures, the chosen one of thy servants, the harbinger of mercy, the prosecutor of goodness, the key to blessings. He exerts himself for thy purpose and exposes himself to pain for thy sake, and thwarted thy enemy till his mission was accomplished and what was planned for his friends was achieved. Thy commandments were established and thy word was exalted. Therefore, O Allah, exalt. Okay, that's a prayer. I'm gonna skip that. Okay, as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a helper in this great cause of resurrecting the poor dead people of ours, and after hearing of the slander and lies of our beloved leader and teacher by the hypocrites and disbelievers, I would like to tell the world I would like to tell the world my experience with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad over the last 20 or more years. First of all, I can truthfully say that after 20 years going in and out of his home, sleeping in his home, riding with him in his car, dining with him at his table, I have never seen anything or about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad but a righteous man. Some of these hypocrites accuse him of embezzlement, which is a lie, and the one who told it doesn't believe it. On the contrary, Messenger Muhammad gives his followers far more than they give him, and this has been true ever since I have known him. And those two prostitutes who accused the messenger of getting babies should hang their heads in shame for the rest of their lives for putting out such lies on the honorable Elijah Muhammad. Here, the messenger has been ill for the last 2 or 3 years, sometimes too weak to get out of bed, and yet they accuse him. So I think I can stop there. We have clearly read that on the Nation of Islam own newspaper, Muhammad Speak, dated September 11, 1964, page 4, a minister wrote, as for those two prostitutes and those two prostitutes who accused the minister, oh, I'm sorry, not the minister, the messenger of getting babies. That's very clear. So they were prostitutes in 1964, and 28 years later, they are introduced as wives. So Bright Eyes wrote, yeah, yes, I prefer facts, and if I am not certain, I verify first. And that's the thing we should all do. And double checking is also always good because we all make mistakes. We're humans. So thank you once again, sister, for sharing that with us. So now I can go back to sharing these quotes from the book Inside the Nation of Islam. So during Savior's Day, which is annually, we have gifts oftentimes $1,000 per person. Here we have another quote. Many of the nation's financial problems started in 1985 with the announcement of an economic program titled People Organized and Working for Economic Rebirth. Power. Financed with a $5 million loan from Gaddafi. The black Muslim leader envisioned that it would become a 1 billion personal care enterprise. However, before the program could get off the ground, Farrakhan used the Gaddafi loan to purchase personal homes for himself and his children that amounted to more than $2 million. The remainder of the Libyan loan went into travel, entertainment, and lavish living that culminated in excess of over $800,000 alone in 1986 to 1987. Now, we have surely, I don't know if some of you have heard Khalid Abdul Muhammad stating that he got $5 million from Gaddafi. And here we have the date 1985. Elijah Muhammad was no longer there. He had made his transition, actually 10 years prior. And before Elijah Muhammad made his transition, we have also the Muhammad Speaks newspaper where Elijah Muhammad himself announced the gift from our Libyan brothers $3 million in 1975. So we don't know how many millions of dollars they got because this is what they talked about publicly. But moving right along. Okay, let me just read this. For example, I'm sorry, as the Muslims were living high on the hog, private contractors and government tax departments labored diligently to force the nation to honor delinquent debts. For example, a company that installed tie and built a perimeter wall around the $400,000 Phoenix mansion occupied by one of Farrakhan's daughters filed a lion against the Nation of Islam for failure to pay $6,000 for services rendered. The sadness of this, the sadness of the mismanagement is even more pronounced when the nation had to struggle to raise $45,000 in back taxes in 1995 to keep its final call building on 79th Street in Chicago. Travesties that Farrakhan and the nation amassed millions of dollars that they have literally thrown away on individualized arrogance. Another of the nation's failed businesses was the Anwar Security Agency Inc. In 4 years, the corporation won over $20 million in public contracts in 10 major cities, and the brother from the pseudo killers mentioned $20,000 annually, which was an estimation. And when we made the calculations, assuming a membership of 100,000, I'm sorry, 100,000 members, it was very likely, but we have a figures of 250,000 members. So let's continue anyway. However, Farrakhan's most steaming diatribe came in Libya when he verbally accepted the 1 billion pledge from Gaddafi. Now, there was a pledge of $1 billion. America was not happy about it. So probably officially that money was not given. But on the low, who knows how much? Even if it wasn't $1 billion, who knows how many millions? So Farrakhan threatened that the American government had better allow him to receive the $1 billion from Libya because if he did not, it will earn the rage of Louis Farrakhan He notified the federal government that if the money was kept from the Nation of Islam, he would travel throughout America, steering the blacks, whites, Arabs, Native Americans, and Muslims into a hysteria that will promote mass unrest and confusion. In addition, he argued that he would take the government to court and sue for his monetary gift. Okay. Now, prior to the march, the nation's local temples and study groups, together with Chavis NAALS, had raised millions of dollars to put on the march. During the activity, millions of dollars were collected in several meetings of organizers held primarily at Farrakhan's residence. It was estimated that the march could be done for approximately $750,000 or less. However, the audit maintained that the nation NAALS had an outstanding balance of $67,000. Chavis, Farrakhan's agent, had used his position as a director of NALS to ask chapter members and support groups to give $1,000 to the Million Man March. $1,000 once again. They love that figure. Everybody have their preference. Now here we're talking about the Million More movement. I believe that's what MMM stands for. Oh no, actually no. See, it's always good to double check, and this is a good example. It's talking about the Million Family March. No, it's not the Million Family March because it's MMM. So, oh, actually, it's the Million Man March, the 1995 Million Man March. Because later on we had the Million More movement. But anyway, so also like the historic Million Man March, participants paid $3.99 per minute to pay the $11 registration fee by telephone, and others gave the Nation of Islam $1,000 to be vendors. Of course, according to Minister Farrakhan, the only purpose of the various registration fees and the selling of souvenirs was to defray the costs of the event and keeping true to the spirit of the Million Man March. The minister asked in the nation's final core newspaper for individuals to donate thousands of dollars as contributors for the Million Family March. Now here we are told that Farrakhan asked in his 3.5 hour Million Family March lecture that each American family send him $100 by October 16, 2011. This time it was not appealing to Nation of Islam members, otherwise we would have had an additional zero. It was just each American family. So here the figure is $100. So we are told here. Oh, no. That's the messenger. So, okay. We went through some figures and seeing how to get down when it comes to expenses, to each his own. So, it's been an hour and 29 minutes. But it's only 2 minutes past the initial scheduled time of the live stream. So I'm going to wait a little while. Going to get something to drink and see if somebody wants to get on the panel or ask a question or make a statement, whether they agree or disagree. And then I will call it a day. All right. So I'll be right back. Actually, I like to play something while I'm away. So I will play this.
So Shabazz was not permitted to stay in that area, so he took his family into the jungle of East Asia, which we now call Africa, to make a people close to nature. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is the origin of kinky hair, because we didn't have kinky hair prior to that. The hair on our head was like the hair on our eyebrows. The hair on your eyebrows straight, the hair on your head is not the same as the hair on your eyebrow. But the hair of every other people is the same as their eyebrow. Your eyebrow straight, your hair something different. Wouldn't you like the hair on your head to be as straight as the hair on your eyebrow? That's why you so busy frying it. That's why you so busy pulling it. Because your nature tells you that the kink I mean, you know, with I'm black and I'm proud, we got to learn to be proud of kinks. Because most of your family of other black people on the earth, jet black. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They were dark-skinned people, jet black. But they had straight hair, a thinner lip, a thinner nose. But we are marked as a different kind of black person. And we were rejected and despised, not only from the circle of the gods, but we were despised and rejected by all the other dark people of the earth. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. I want you to hear me well tonight.
Yes, sir.
Why are we rejected? Because the essence of beauty is in obedience and submission to God. And the essence of ugliness is when you rebel against God. And when you rebel against God, in your rebellion, you are marked with a certain mark of your rebellion, which is the disfigurement of your internal self, which manifests in the disfigurement of your external self. And this is why when you look at our people, wherever we are found on the earth, you find us either disfiguring ourselves physically because we are disfigured on the inside because of rebellion.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Good thing I didn't say anything crazy because I forgot that um, when you play some clips, you cut the mic off. So the clip is over and the mic is back on. So I can close this, close that one as well. I can close it as well. No, it's for later on. That one I can close. Now, Bright Eyes is like, what were you going to say? It's not really that I had something planned, but you know, sometimes you can say stuff when you feel like nobody else can hear you. You might be like, I don't know, man, say something crazy. Yeah. So, brothers and sisters, for those who don't know, I'm accepting donations for those who want to. You have the PayPal here, paypal.me slash my forever. You have the super chat or super sticker directly on YouTube on the chat. You even have the Cash App, you know. Now, James Powell is saying, is there not one? Come on, family, put Shaka to the test. Talk to and question him. Well, if people are shy, it is what it is, You know, it is what it is. It's a shame that they don't take advantage. However, people know that they cannot come here on some BS. and you have plenty of channels where you can come and just say any kind of nonsense, and you will get applauded. People will call you a master teacher. People will call you a scholar. People will call you a doctor, and you're just spitting nothing but foolishness. Uh, Here's not the same, but people are free, to come up with their arguments. But I'm not going to spend time, waiting for people to come. Uh, I did that before. It was not really fruitful. So I guess I'm going to call it a day, right? So we have 8 people in attendance right now. I've been live streaming for 1 hour and 36 minutes. Not a single donation. I'm not going to be pseudo for donation. That's something I would not do. I will not be pseudo. So thank you for being there, brothers and sisters. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if I'm allowed to, by the Necheru, I will definitely holler back at you. If you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Dua to Dua Necheru, Hotep.
Now, for the record, for those who don't know, I'm giving Medu Nature classes. And here, that's the flyer. Okay? So, those who are interested, feel free to holler at me. If you're not interested, it's cool. But I recommend that everybody who has not yet seen the video Kemet and Ma'at before Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, then watch it. It has about 300,000 views and really deserves to have a lot more. I just want to let everyone know who's listening in now and who's going to listen to this stream in the future. I just had my first Meta Nature class by Brother Shaka today, and I've had other Meta Nature lessons by other teachers, and I can tell you right now, the brother is the best in the game. He is that was one of the best classes I've ever had, ever. So if you're interested in learning the Meta Nature, if you're interested in getting the basics of it, Brother Shaka is an awesome teacher. Get with him, and it's extremely affordable. This brother is giving us his time and his skills, and he's basically giving it away. I mean, I just consider it a donation. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody is interested in learning the Meta Nature, get with this brother right here. He's an awesome, awesome, awesome teacher. And I'll end with that.
Hotep Senu, Hena Senut. This is Julie, also known as Servant of Yah, and I'm currently taking the Medu Neture classes with Brother Shaka, and it has been an amazing experience. Only 2 lessons so far, and I feel like I've been taking the classes for months, just with the how in depth he goes into the vocabulary words, the construction of the language, the grammar. It's been immeasurable, the experience. And one thing that comes across, hands down, is his extreme passion for teaching this to anyone who is willing to learn and has an interest in learning. So I highly suggest, if you are interested, even a minimal interest, that you subscribe to the classes with Brother Shaka. It's such a nominal amount for how much you get. I know, like, our last class was over 2.5 hours. It felt like 2 minutes, but because that's how involved you are in what he's teaching and how he teaches and how compassionate he is about what he teaches. Also with sharing materials free of charge, no question, no doubt. It's just what he does. He doesn't have to, but he does. And so I just wanted to give a short testimonial about the class and the effectiveness of the class. And all of that is attested to how studied Brother Shaka is. So I highly recommend anyone with a minimal interest that you do sign up for the Medu Neture class. Hotep.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, which is Ma'at Forever. Don't forget to watch the video entitled Kemet and Ma'at. Don't forget to share Kemet and Ma'at on my channel
on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or other social media that you use. Email, text messages, you name it. Those who wish to donate can do so on paypal.me/maatforever.